So for today's photo walk, I wanted to give myself 3 rules. The first one being it has to be within walking distance of my house. With all the snow we got, driving is out of the equation. Rule number 2 is that it has to be shot with film. I've got my Canon AE-1 with 35mm film loaded up, and I've got an old 1930s 120 camera with black and white film loaded up as well. Rule number 3 isn't as much of a rule as it is a concept: minimalism. I want to be able to focus on that on some of these photos. It's something I don't do enough of. Now, it doesn't have to be every photo, but I would at least like some of them to be minimalistic. Now, with it being 18 degrees outside, I don't think it's as smart to sit in the snow for a long amount of time. So let's get going. All right, I think I got a shot over here with this culvert. I just kind of like the way the snow sweeps around it. This kind of fits in with the minimalistic theme, so we'll kind of get an idea. I think I'm going to shoot this with my 35mm, mainly because the 120 film I got is a TLR light camera, and having to look down it at this type of angle, I think that's going to be really difficult to do. So I'm going to get my 35 out and see what we can frame up. All right, so for this photo, there's a couple pieces of straw over here I want to get on the edge of the frame, because I think if I cut it off, you'll see the shadow and that'll look kind of weird. Secondly, the internal meter is saying f16, and I'm currently shooting at 1,000th of a second since the snow is so bright. Since it's saying f16, I guess that means I can shoot at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 4 stops under, and that'll be enough to keep it all composed properly. So I'm gonna shoot it at 5.6. We'll see if my math is right with that, but let's go ahead and get it focused up. I'm gonna focus on the culvert. I'm gonna make sure my framing is right in 3, 2, 1. All right, photo number 1 done. All right, so I think I got my second photo of the day just beside the last one. These shadows are raking across this ditch nicely, so I think I'm gonna frame those up. I'm gonna use the same settings as last time since there is some bright snow in the background. Most of this photo is gonna be the bottom half of the ditch, but you will see some of that brightness in the background. So I'm gonna frame this stuff up on the top third, I think. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, shot number 2 done. All right, I'm in this old shed now. There's a whole bunch of trash just thrown around, and I really think it's neat the way the light is breaking across some of them. There's a few cans that the light just has a nice stripe that goes right across the side of it. So I'm gonna look around for a second and see what I think works best. There's a couple different ones that kind of stand out, and it's nice because this lens has some macro capabilities to it. So I'm gonna see what I can do with that, if that helps anything. I think I got a composition I like, and this scene is really tricky to expose for just because of the way that light hits. So I'm gonna use a light meter, just get a couple of readings and see what we're working with. I got my image composed now, and I think I'm gonna shoot at 1/25th of a second at f8. Originally, I was gonna shoot at 2/50th of a second shutter, but I thought I wanted a little bit more depth of field just because I am so close to this object. I wanna make sure enough of the can is in focus. So let's go ahead and get our composed image. 3, 2, 1. All right, image number 3 done. All right, so I got a composition that I think is going to work well in a square format. So I got the 120 film camera out. This one does not have an internal light meter, so I'm going to have to rely on my digital one from Sekonic. Well, turned out my camera battery died while I was recording that last one. This cold is really crushing these batteries. But what I was saying when I took the photo is I was trying to get a good composition where these posts are still in the photo, but the road really wasn't. I cheated the camera down a little bit to get less sky and get more of this foreground in the ditch. I think it turned out good. I really wish the camera hadn't have died, but like I said, that was what I was going for in this composition. There really isn't much in the sky, it's just blue. So there really wasn't any need to have much of that in it. I think it was more interesting having all this grass and these weeds growing up through the snow. I think it was better to have that in the photo rather than the sky. All right, I really can't remember what shot we're on now. It's a little too cold for me to think about that, but I gotta think a cool composition here with this tire changer. It's got an old jack stand on top. It's got a couple trees growing up through it, so I think that could be a cool vertical composition here. And as I was talking to y'all, I think I see one behind that's going to be a really fun one. That's going to be a good minimalistic one here. But let's focus on this one first. I think do vertical and maybe have some of this one tree in the foreground. I'm gonna get the Canon AE-1 out. I think that'll do good here, and we'll see what we think about it. All right, so the whole scene in the brightest area is me doing at about f/16. I'm shooting at 1,000th of a second just so I can get my aperture down a little bit. I could have brought an ND filter or something out here, but I decided not to. So I'm going to shoot at f4. I think that works out well. So we'll see. And I'm just now realizing too, I think my apertures were off earlier on the macro shot, because there is a separate set of apertures for macro, which I didn't realize. Now we know. So I'm gonna shoot this, I think f4, shoot it vertical. I got this one tree in the foreground. Let's get focus. All right, let's make sure not to cut off the backside of it. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, another shot down. That was shot 8 on this camera. I had a few shots taken before, but while I'm standing here, I'm just gonna kind of pivot the camera around and show y'all what I think I see. So there's this dumpster out here that's just for some of the trash they were having. There's supposed to be a driveway right there in the road. Can't even tell where they've been. Nobody's driven down this road yet. But I think that's just an interesting shot. All the white snow and a dumpster. So I'm gonna leave y'all, I think, over here. And I am gonna go over there and see what we can figure out. I gotta be careful on this scene. I don't wanna walk too far into it and put any footprints, but I do need to get some type of meter reading on this, I think. This is gonna be a tricky one to compose for and expose for, because it is such a contrast between the white snow and such a dark dumpster. I think this could be a cool square one, but I might take one of each just because I don't know which one will look better. All right, so I'm going to do this with the 120 camera now. I'm going to take a couple reflective readings of this scene. ISO 400, let's put my shutter speed down to 1/25th, which is the closest equivalent to this camera. Saying f/64.7. Now we want this snow to be 4 stops thereabout, brighter than middle gray. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, which gives us f/16.7, which if you account for the shutter speeds being a little bit different between these two, it's going to be about f/22. So we're going to run with that and see what we can do. So I'm wondering if I should change the composition up for what I have in mind for the other camera. Then again, this does look pretty cool. I'm gonna walk over here and just see first before we decide. This one we have more trees in, which I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of that. So if I go over just a little bit more, get the trees out from over there, I think that works. And then maybe get a little lower. Let's see. Yeah, I think this looks best. All right. Trying to just still avoid. Whew, the snow is getting soft over here. Avoid some of these trees. Put you over there, so I need to go this way because it's backwards with these cameras. 3, 2, 1. All right, photos taken. All right, guys, I think this is going to be a cool one here. I'm going to do a square frame that kind of shows the snow at the base of this step. And I think get some of the bright snow, some of the dark snow, and then the shadow of the building, of course. So the bright snow is reading 22.6 at 1/125th of a second. The shadow of the building was f/5.6 and some change, and then the snow shadow, I believe, was f/11. I could be wrong, but taking into consideration the bright and the dark, f/22.6. If we consider that our brightest, we want that to be 1, 2, 3 stops to 4 stops under, which puts us at 5.6.6. And then we're going to go up a little bit brighter from that because of my shutter speeds being off, which would put that pretty much at f/8. So I'm gonna shoot that at f/8, but maybe a sliver under, because this doesn't show f/8, it shows f/6.3 and f/11. So I'm just gonna put it in the middle of those two. 1/100th of a second. Now focus is where it's gonna be tricky. So I'm gonna work on my composition first, and then we can figure out what distance we need to be for focus. A little closer than this, and it could be a cool shot here with these chairs. Actually, kind of wish I had color film now, since this is all different color chairs. I might do this one with the 35 camera, yeah, because that's gonna be better on a wider frame. So I'm gonna get a little lower here. Let's see. Woohoo, guys, this snow is soft at times. Okay, I think this might work. Okay, it's gonna be tricky getting everything centered and straight. All right, so distance wise here, we're about 10 yards, so 30 feet. I guess I'm gonna put it maybe about where we were earlier, between infinity and 6 meters. I gotta get better at converting that, because I think that's about 20. So we're gonna run with that. So I can see that lock in the frame. I think I can. Yeah, okay, good. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay, taking that one. Now let's get the 35 camera and see about these chairs over here. All right, I'm gonna shoot this at 2/50th of a second. I feel comfortable doing that handheld here. And since I have the option, there's no need of shooting it slower. Whew. Okay, take these Ray-Bans off. I almost want to get like level with them, get low. Let's scoot back. Yeah, that's worth it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, another photo down. All right, so one of the things we talked about I wanted this day was some minimalistic photos, and I really don't have many of those for yet. That's a tricky thing to get, because there's so much going on with all the shadows and everything with the sun being out right now that it's hard to get a good minimalistic shot. But I think I got one right here it's borderline. So there's a tree in the scene, there's a lot of shadow, but it's real simple depending on how I frame it. It may work, it still might not be considered minimalistic, but that's still something I want to get. So I got a couple more shots hopefully that I can get that with, and hopefully my camera battery doesn't die before then, because this cold is definitely eating those batteries up. So let's look at this next shot and see what we have. All right, I think there's a neat one here, but it's a little sad, honestly. You got this scene that's got this old rope swing that's clearly seen better days. It's been used, but it's sadly been put up for the last time and never put back up together. And then you got this snowy scene that's just got no road marks on or no tire tracks on the road, no footprints in the snow, anything. So it's clearly nobody's been out here playing. And then, like I said, you just got this sad old swing. So this could be a cool shot. Again, it's going to be a little tricky to compose for and expose, because the sun is directly behind the scene and this snow is so bright with these deep shadows. My thought is to have a lot of this foreground, or a lot of this shadow in the foreground, and kind of angle down a little bit with the swing and tree in the top left third, or I guess it's the opposite on here. So it's really going to be the right third in the final photo, I think. So this could be a cool shot, but it definitely is. It evokes some emotion just looking at it. It's going to be tricky to get a good meter reading for, though. Let's go ahead and set our camera before we forget. F22, infinity focus, 1/100th of a second. All right, so we're going to put a lot of foreground. Step over a little. Straight up. There we go. I want this big bright area there. Okay. Let's get a little lower. Yeah, that way we can see the whole rope's not getting cut off by the ground. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Taking the photo. That was number 4 for this camera. So I'm gonna take one with the 35mm too, just because I think it could be cool to get a little tighter and just seeing the rope swing. That'll be next. And then we'll walk down a little bit more. and see if there's a couple more shots before our batteries die. All right, so we're set up over here a little bit closer. I'm gonna go ahead and punch in a little bit, hit it at 70 mil, focus on the rope. Yeah, I think level with the rope looks good. Only tricky part is there's a tree in the background, and that tree is like in front of the or behind the rope, so it's hard to see it through it. So I'm gonna slide over a little bit. We kind of lose the straight on shot with that, but in this case I think it's worth it. I can't decide if I want to have more foreground or not. I think have more foreground. There's a lot of busyness in those branches up top. All right, focus is set. 3, 2, 1. All right, that was photo 10 for this camera. Let's go down to these grain bins and see if there's anything we like over there. Walked over to my phone view because my other camera did end up dying. I think I'm going to exclude the light pole. It's a little too much going on in the composition, but I'm gonna give y'all a rough idea of what I'm thinking. I'll get a little bit closer. See if I add that light pole in on the side, it's a little much, but if I come over here, center up, and maybe scoot up a few feet, I think that'll be a cool one. All right, I think that's the framing I want. Looking through the camera right now, or the phone. 3, 2, 1. Okay, photo's been taken. Let's go on and swap over there to the wheat and the weeds, and let's see if there's anything we like. All right, I think this is the composition I like. There's a couple of these things right here that's got some snow on them. I think they make, and they're kind of leaned back, so they get a little bit of light hitting across them. I'm not sure if that shows on the phone well, but I think that'll be a cool one. I'm going to shoot at 1,000th of a second at f4, well, about f5, give or take. It's going to be kind of tight, kind of about like that. So I'll take it and show y'all what we get. These are the kind of things we get to see in the wintertime. Snow geese, they are everywhere this time of year. And this is nothing. We've seen them thousands at a time flying in, so it's always pretty cool to see them though. All right, so now I'm right between these two grain bins, and there just so happens to be this little flower or plant just right in the middle of this light beam. So I'm gonna get this composed up. Still not sure how I want to shoot it. Do I want to shoot it vertical and get kind of tight, or do I want to shoot it close and wide? All right, so let's see what we can figure out with the light meter and composition. All right, last shot of the day. I want to get centered up on this door and get a square composition with it, showing the snow, getting the whole door, of course, and then some of the ground, just all the stuff growing out of it is pretty cool. The tricky part is, do I square myself up with the door or the door frame? Because the door is slightly open, but I think if I can center up with the frame, that'll work. So it'll show that being open more. So let me get this composed and show y'all what we get. All right, I think this is the framing we want. We got it at f11 at 1/100th of a second at 6 meters for focus. All right, let's get these lines straight and go 3, 2, 1. All right, we took it. Now I think it's time to go on home, and I know I didn't shoot a whole roll of either one, but I'll get these photos developed and see if we got anything that we like.